I've said for a long time that I think that difficulty sliders need to go. They are in all sorts of games, whether you look at the Batman Arkham titles, The Witcher 3, or even a game like Assassin's Creed Odyssey. But the first time that I ever made this criticism publicly was in my Witcher 3 critique, and back then, I said that I felt difficulty sliders were simply a get-out-of-jail-free card for developers who wanted to avoid balancing their levels properly. Now back then, my channel was very small. When I posted that Witcher 3 critique in mid-2017, I only had a few thousand subscribers, and I honestly didn't expect more than around 1,000 people to watch that video. Now, it's about to cross 1 million views. Thank you, by the way. And I've also received a lot of feedback, specifically on this one criticism, so I felt I should finally address it in a dedicated video. To begin, what are we actually talking about? What am I referring to when I say difficulty slider? Well, when you're playing a game, you'll be faced with various challenges. Some of these are small and some are large, but if the game developers have done their jobs well, this difficulty will pace itself and level with you. In other words, if you select the hard option on the starting menu, you should be able to expect a fairly consistent hard level of challenge as the game progresses over the course of the total game time, whether that's a few hours or a couple of dozen hours. Now let me be very clear, I don't have a problem with this. Varying difficulty options are great and even allow for more interesting repeated playthroughs, such as having a new game plus mode. But what I'm referring to in this video is when you have a slider within the menus that allows you to change the game's difficulty at any point in the game. I posit that these lead to unbalanced games and put the responsibility on players to balance their experience and not on the developers, which is where this process should be taking place. Now, at the outset, I know what you're thinking. What's the harm? What possible downside could there be to a difficulty slider? What if I'm playing a game that has constant spikes in difficulty? I'd rather have the option to get around it without hours and hours of frustrations. And let me be very clear. That's fair, but I would argue that the latter point is a solution in search of a problem and not the other way around. You know what, that sounds needlessly complicated, so allow me to explain by asking you a simple question in response. Why would a game even need a difficulty slider? Well, surely a simple question would have a simple answer, so what is it? Why have them to begin with? Well, often features such as the aforementioned sliders are made in response to an issue or a shortcoming that pre-exists within the game. For example, you add an FOV slider in order to allow for greater customization for those who perhaps suffer from motion sickness. I'm one such player, and having an FOV slider makes it so that I can actually play a game like Rage 2, whereas I wouldn't be able to play otherwise without becoming viciously nauseous. Or look at another type of slider, a gamma or brightness slider. These allow you to customize the game's graphics and lighting to your specific monitor or TV. And sure, some people can use it to change the way that the game plays, such as making enemies easier to spot, but this is also true of an FOV slider, and there will always be people who seek to exploit these mechanics. But the point is that these are all features that were born out of a problem. So what is the problem that difficulty sliders are trying to fix? Well, I would say that changeable difficulty settings are a response to the aforementioned spikes in difficulty. If I'm playing through The Witcher 3 on stream, over on Twitch, on Deathmarch, the hardest possible difficulty, and I encounter a story mission that is excessively difficult, I will likely try to push on through, dying, reloading, dying again, and repeating this process ad nauseum until either I succeed or I give up. But in a game that doesn't have this changeability, you're forced to adapt to the game's challenges. Think Sekiro. You will likely get stuck on one or more of these bosses, but you don't have the option to lower the difficulty in order to get past. You must adapt and learn. But the question might be, what if the boss isn't properly scaled, or what if the player's underleveled and underprepared? Well, exactly. If you're underleveled or underprepared, you are forced into going and doing that which you should have already completed before taking on the boss. There's no shortcuts or cheats. You must play the game the way the developer intended you to play it, and the developer has to take the time to craft a set experience, and then they have to balance everything around that. Effectively, they must polish the game until it's perfect. And this is more the point. When there's only one difficulty level, the level designers and gameplay designers can craft one experience very carefully, as opposed to trying to make it work dynamically for everybody who's constantly changing the scaling of the levels. This because the people in charge of balancing will only ever have to balance it for one type of playthrough. My biggest problem with dynamic difficulty settings is that they give those people, the ones in charge of balancing, an excuse not to fully balance the experience, which is their job. And all of this can be done while giving the player the option of different difficulties. Games like Bloodborne effectively have different difficulties based on whether or not you're playing on New Game Plus, and if you are, which New Game Plus mode or level you're on. Each of these have their own scale for the enemies that you'll be fighting, and they will change how leveled the player character must be, and in turn also how experienced the player should be before taking these on. The key, though, is that you can't change this midway. Part of the magic of this idea is that you can still offer a choice of difficulty to the player, but you're not allowing them to change the difficulty on a whim. Literally everybody wins. Simply offering different difficulties is great, but giving the player a crutch like a variable slider is something that I personally can't stand and that I think needs to go. It's been mainstream in the industry for years, and I think it does nothing other than give players a reason not to engage with the game that they're playing on a deeper and more meaningful level. But that's all from me. Thank you so much for watching. Subscribe if you enjoyed, and like for more videos like this one. Also, check me out on Twitch. We have a great time over there, and you get free sneak peeks to upcoming videos just like this one consistently. Thank you again. I love you all, and I'll see you in the next video.